Hi guys, this is Nadya Andreeva from spinachandyoga.com, and today is another interview in Happy Belly interview series where I'm interviewing various experts about digestion and various ways to support it and heal it. And we're doing all these interviews to celebrate the launch of my book, Happy Belly, and you can download the free chapter right below the video or on the website. And today we have a very special guest who specializes and who knows not only about digestion, but also in chronic fatigue. And the two are so much connected. Dr. Amber Golshani has received her Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Southampton College of Long Island University. Following her own cure of chronic illness using natural methods, she went on to receive her doctorate of naturopathic medicine with honors from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. And now she served on the board of directors for both Evergreen Center for Balanced Living, and also the Scientific Advisory Board of Council Pharmaceuticals. Amber is a frequent lecturer, both locally and nationally, and she believes her primary role is to educate and empower people to build a health that they want so they can live a full, vital life. So thank you, Amber, for being with us today, and I'm excited to pick your brain about everything related to our Happy Belly and what it means personally for you.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit, what does a happy belly mean for you?
To me, it means that digestion is a process that happens easily and without our awareness. And what I mean by that is it shouldn't be something that we have to plan our life around. And I certainly know there are people that will make plans based off of how close in proximity it is to bathroom facilities, or will sometimes have to limit their life and their lifestyle because of digestive problems that they have. So a happy belly to me means that they're able to not have digestion hold them back from living their life to the fullest.
Yeah, I love this definition, saying that it's something that happens on its own, which that's the way it's supposed to. You don't know that your heart is beating.
Right.
And digestion should be the same way. It shouldn't be an extra effort to make it work. But at the same time, for so many people, it is.
Yeah.
Why do you think, especially if we're talking about chronic fatigue, and that's your specialty, right?
Yes.
If we were to talk about chronic fatigue, and all women, they want a little bit more energy. It's like It's like money. There's never enough. How important it is to have a healthy digestion if you are working towards having more energy?
Digestion is absolutely the foundation for all areas of health, and not just for having good energy, but if you want to have clear thinking, if you want to have good skin, it all starts with digestion. That is the primary interface between the exterior world and then bringing it in to our bodies. So without proper digestion, your body won't be able to receive the nutrients that it needs to build the healthy body. And so if you have impaired digestion, you're not going to be able to get everything that your body needs for every other process of your body to run correctly. It has to come in. The digestion is the gateway to our health.
I so agree with you. It's basically a matter of whether your body has the nutrients to create healthy blood, healthy cells.
Yes.
And that a lot where the energy comes from.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you would do yourself or recommend your clients do to keep a happy belly?
Well, I start with a very individualized approach. Everyone has different needs, but as a foundation, eating whole, real foods is probably the best medicine that you can give your body. And depending on my clients' current state of digestion, we may have to make some adjustments to that. So we may start off with more easy to digest foods, cooked foods, broths, soups, things like that. And we may need to use some herbal teas or homeopathic medicines or other things to assist their body in healing and repair. I think it can happen using only a whole foods approach. But what I've seen is that if we can add in some key either supplements or herbs or nutrients, it just accelerates the process of how fast the body can heal. So I think using whole foods and then I use a lot of herbs and herbal teas in my practice.
I love herbal teas here.
Yeah.
Fennel, coriander, dandelion tea, those can be all so amazing. And both of us have our teas.
Yes.
So, and I think teas is an easier way to use an herb because it's not in a capsule. You can just like make and sip it, and it's very comforting, very warming. Yes. So I'm 100% with you on teas.
Yes.
But let's get a little bit more specific.
Okay.
If we're talking about foods, you mentioned some broths, you mentioned cooked vegetables, and I think for a lot of people, they have this concept that raw food is the best, which it is if you can digest it.
Yes.
But for somebody whose digestion is very sensitive or impaired in a way, what are some foods that you would recommend them to start off with specifically? Like, why is the bone broth so healing?
Yes, bone broth is one of the most easy to digest and nutritious foods that there is, and it's a food which has been made in traditional cultures all over the world, and yet our modern culture has seemed to have lost that knowledge that when you go buy a broth in a can or in a carton, it actually, that's something you can make at home very easily, and it actually comes from soaking the bones and the cartilaginous parts of either chicken or beef, or you can use lamb or some sort of fish. And when you cook that with some mild form of acid like a lemon juice or vinegar, you're actually able to extract a lot of the minerals that are in the bones, a lot of the amino acids and the vitamins and the nutrients. And so it's in a liquid form, which makes it very easy to absorb. And there's also the gelatin itself that comes from the bones has a lot of healing properties. It's very soothing and can help protect the mucilaginous barrier that's inside of our intestines, which gets destroyed a lot from our stressful lives and from not eating the right foods that nourish that. And then using that bone broth as a base, you can add any sort of vegetable to make your own soup. Once you strain the bones and skim the fat off, you've got a wonderful, healing, nutritious stock or broth there. And you can add, I really like, just as a soup base, like carrots and celery and onions and all of those things, they taste really good and they're very nutrient rich. And by cooking them in the broth, you don't lose any of the nutrients because whatever is inside of the carrots or the onions or whatever goes right into the broth. So you get everything in there. And as far as, aside from the broth, some other healing foods I use, I know I'm sort of on the border of living in the South here. I'm in Maryland. Okra is a vegetable that actually, a lot of people haven't even heard of it, but it is very mucilaginous. Yeah. It's sort of sticky, gooey, which is great for if you're trying to heal your intestines. So that's a really healing food, and you can add that into soups and cook it in other ways. But
it's so good when you saute it.
Yes.
So good. And Indian cuisine loves okra.
Okay.
So I think that's a great vegetable that not a lot of people experimented with. And guys, if you are getting the book, everyone who gets a book, you also get a copy of all the recipes that are healing for digestion. And we actually have Amber's recipe for bone broth. So that's a great way to start healing your digestion. Tell us a little bit of your story. Has your belly and your digestion always been smooth and perfect?
No, not really. I feel pretty lucky. Most of the time it's been pretty good, but I have had circumstances where I can get some indigestion, and it was infrequent, but I went through a period of time where even though it maybe only happened once a week, it was happening for many weeks in a row. And so what I figured out is that there is certain foods that bother me. And one of those is corn. And I really had to do sort of a process of elimination and just paying attention. And I think that even it seems to be just a corn allergy, that even organic corn can cause me to get this feeling of fullness and reflux. So I mostly avoid it now completely. But I also found out recently raw bell peppers also, they make me burp and I get this feeling of fullness here. And, you know, so that's something that I've worked to avoid. But I'm also trying to use more apple cider vinegar before my meals as a way to stimulate that digestive process, because I'm sure you know the stomach is acidic, and sometimes if we lose acidity, then you cannot, the acidity is the start of the whole chain reaction of digestion. So if that first domino doesn't get knocked down, then your enzymes aren't going to produce and everything else is going to be slowed down. So apple cider vinegar is something I've been using when I eat more raw vegetables, and also for my patients. I think it is a great, it's a healing food. It's a medicinal food. So I think of it more as a food rather than a medicine, because you can also go buy acid pills to help stimulate the digestive acid process. But I prefer to try to use the vinegar, which helps stimulate your own body to make more of the digestive acids.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful example. For example, in Ayurveda, there's 6 tastes, and the sour taste helps with digestion. So Ayurvedically, you are supposed to start a meal like 20 minutes before a meal. You're supposed to have a glass of warm water with a little bit of lime juice in it. And there's always a pickle of some sort that adds that acidity. And I think in our modern world, you can substitute it with apple cider vinegar or lemon water or fermented vegetables. And that kind of gets that digestion process.
The same thing. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the matter of that sour taste that makes the meal complete. So it's really cool that you notice that some foods don't sit well with your body. How would you recommend people to start that process of, okay, this food is good for me, this food is not good for me? Because I feel like for everyone, the foods are slightly different. So if you said corn doesn't work for me, and then I guess corn is usually so genetically modified that most people would be better off taking it out. But if we were to talk about bell peppers, for some people, they might be quite fine. How do we create that internal map of what works for us, what doesn't?
That's a great question. I totally agree. It's a very individual process. And even though some foods can be very healthy for most people, they may not agree with other people. So it's a process to figure that out. And so there's kind of 2 ways that I do this. And one is, my preferred method is really helping my patients to generate the self-awareness. And I can take them through a process of an elimination and challenge diet. So basically we will start by eliminating the most common foods that people have sensitivities or intolerances to. So that's things like wheat and grains, corn, soy, beans, dairy, citrus, eggs, sugar, alcohol, as sort of the main places to start. And after a few weeks, I would say 90% of my patients feel better. But, you know, it's a much more restricted diet. So now we have to figure out, well, which one of those is really the culprit of why you felt so bad. So then it's a systematic process of reintroduction. So we take one food at a time, one single ingredient. And I call it my rule of 1, 2, 3, 4. So you take one single ingredient and you add it back into your diet twice a day for 3 days. And then you have to wait 4 days. So you eat it for those 3 days in a row, and you're eating it in, you know, a sufficient quantity, because we want to provoke a response. If you're really, truly sensitive or have an intolerance to something, we want to know now. So you eat it one food twice a day for 3 days, and then you wait 4 days. Because sometimes it can take 48 hours before you start to manifest the symptoms, and it's not always digestive. It could be aches and pains in your bones, in your joints. It could be fatigue. It could be foggy thinking, or even hyperactivity or depression and anxiety. I see it manifest all over the body. So we need that 4-day waiting period to see if your body is going to respond. And then if nothing happens, then we can pretty safely say that that food is probably okay for you to eat. So then we move on to the next food. So it takes a couple of weeks to put all those foods back into your diet. But then you really have the firsthand experience of what that body does, what that food does to your body. The other method is a lab test, which I don't find to be as accurate. And I think it's not as valuable, because there's something to be said for feeling really good, and then all of a sudden you eat this food and now you're like, oh yuck, I feel this way again. It's like we need that reminder of how bad we felt.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of having the knowledge come externally versus coming it internally. And the internal one is always so much easier to follow because you know it on your personal experience.
Yes.
So I really love that method, because it is like an experiment that you're conducting with yourself, and you're measuring all the variables. How's my energy? How's my digestion? I think that's an amazing way to go about it. If people are interested in chronic fatigue or learning about your programs or your online program, where can they find you?
Thank you. I work with all sorts of people with various types of fatigue and tiredness, and I have a website. It's drambergolshani.com. That's kind of a mouthful, I know.
We'll put it right below the video.
Okay, great, thanks. And then also my fatigue and tiredness program is actually starting next month, and the website for that is www.beatyourfatigue.com.
Okay, cool. That's very helpful. And
wonderful.
Guys, if you are looking to improve your digestion, make sure to download the free chapter from Happy Belly Guide. It's also, the link is going to be right below the video. And before you decide whether you want to buy it, you can actually look through the chapter, look through all the resources, and that's going to give you a head start in your healing journey. And thank you for being with us. Make sure to watch all other Happy Belly interviews and check out the website spinachandyoga.com. Thank you, Amber, for being with us.
Thank you so much.